Okay guys, I've been asked to offer some help with this worksheet, the 1-9 inverse functions. So I'm just going to real quick jump in. So if you want to find the inverse of a function, right, hopefully you all read through the notes, did the practice, you're going to swap x and y. So f of x is the same thing as y, remember. So I'm literally just going to write it as x equals 3 over y minus 1 minus 1. So just like that. So I just literally swap the x and the y. Now I want to take this and I want to solve it for y. So let's see, I'd add the 1 to the other side. Maybe let's take the reciprocal of both sides. So I'd have 1 over x plus 1 equals y minus 1 over 3 times both sides by 3. And now just add that 1 to the other side. And then I hate having the y over here, so I'm just going to write it over here. There we go. So there is my inverse. And then they ask you to graph both of these. So if I'm going to graph it, let's see. Let's go ahead and graph the original. So remember what's going on here. Yeah, I'll do this in pencil. My parent function is the reciprocal function. And remember how we talked about writing that as 3 times instead? So 3 times 1 over x minus 1 minus 1. So what does all this do? This is going to take my parent function, right? And then all my y values are going to get multiplied by 3. And then because I have a minus 1 down there with the x, it's going to shift it to the right 1. And the whole thing's going to be down 1. Okay? So the parent function, remember, asymptotes on the x and y axis. 1, 1 was a point. Because remember, your parent function is just 1 over x. So 2 became a half. So remember, it's these that's just hug. Right there. Same thing's happening in the negatives. This is going to hug. Okay, so there's the parent. Now I need to take my y values and I need to multiply them by 3. So this one that's at 2 now is at 6. This one that was at 1 is now at 3. This was at a half. Now it'll be at 1.5. Right? And you can keep going down the line. But then I'm also going to have to move everything. I'll do this and then I'll move it. So the same thing's going to happen on this one. So this is going to jump up to -6. This is now a -3. -1.5 for this one. Okay, so this one's going to go like this now. And now that graph that I just made, I need to pick it all up and move it to the right 1, down 1. So the asymptotes move. Right 1, down 1. So my asymptotes are now here. And then I just recreate. So if that's my new origin, well, let's just take each point, right? Move it to the right 1, down 1. So you go right 1, down 1. You're now right there. Right 1, down 1. Right 1, down 1. Okay, so I wish I had some colored pencils, but I don't. So that one's going to go there, and then the same thing happens with all these. We're going right 1, down 1. Right 1, down 1. Put you right at about a half. Oh, I lost where I just was. Okay. So let's get rid of all these other ones that I don't need anymore. Okay, so there's the graph of the original, and then I just go ahead and graph my inverse. The inverse should be a reflection over the line y equals x. So it's up to you if you want to graph that line y equals x and then just mirror everything over, or you can just go ahead and graph this as it is. So it'd be doing the same thing, but I'm going to go left 1, up 1, right? I'm still going to multiply everything by 3, those y values by 3. I'm just going left 1, up 1. So, oh, I wish I hadn't erased the one that I did right before it, because then I could have just gone left 1, up 1. But let's see. So let's backtrack. When I was at 1, I was at 3. So now I'm going to go left 1, up 1. And my new asymptotes, right, are going to be left 1, up 1. There we go. And then this one will be at a negative 3. Okay. There we go. Okay. My graph is not great. And I'm also trying to make this quick because the shorter I make the video, the sooner it will upload. But I just wanted to show you what the answer actually looks like. And let's see if I can find the key real quick. I just had it. Let's see. Oh, I know where I can get it. Ah, here we go. All right, so here, there it is. So that's what your final graph should have looked like if you did it nice and neatly. So you can just take a look at the answer to this one. It's a lot easier because they're just straight lines, right? So if you just graph those, graph the original 3x minus 3, this line right here, find the inverse, you should have gotten 1/3 x plus 1. Grab that. You'll notice if you were to draw that diagonal line right down the center, it's a perfect reflection over that. Okay, so in the next section, you're doing the same thing, but there's just less to do because now you don't have to graph it. So you're just going to swap x and y and then solve for y. And then the last, very last section, you need to tell if they are inverses of each other or not. So how can you do this? You're going to take, you're going to compose them with each other. So you're going to do g of f of x and f of g of x. And if they simplify out to be x both ways, then yes. So real quick, let's try 13. So I'm going to do f of g of x. So let's take the g and put it into the f. So that would be the 5th root of 2x to the 3rd plus 2 plus 2. Okay, let's see if I get an x out of that. I can already tell you that I'm not going to. So I kind of don't really need to go any further. There's no way that this is going to simplify out to be x, right? The 5th root of that plus 2, no matter what this comes out to be, I'm going to have this plus 2 here. That's not going to go away. So I already know that this is a no. So maybe let's try and do one real quick. That's a yes. I think 16 is a yes. So pretend that we don't know that 16 is a yes yet. Let's do f of g of x. And if it simplifies out to be an x, then I'll try g of f of x and see if that one also comes out to be an x. Okay, so let's take g and put it into f. So be careful. When I do that, I'm going to take all of this and pop it in for that x, but that negative is going to stay out there. So it's going to look like this. Negative 6x minus 5 minus 5 all over 6. Okay, let's simplify that out. So up top now I have positive 6x plus 5 minus 5 all over 6. Well, plus 5 minus 5 is gone. 6x over 6 is just x. That's a good sign. Let's try g of f of x. Okay, let's take the f and put it into the g. So that's going to look like this. F into the g. So we have negative 6 and then that whole thing. Negative x minus 5 all over 6 minus 5. Okay, so let's multiply through. So that's, if I multiply the negative 6 here, that's going to give me a positive x plus 5 on top, minus 5. Wow, what do you know? So yes, these two are inverses of each other. So that's how you tell if they are or aren't. Okay, and just to jump back to 13, as soon as you realize that it's not going to simplify to x, you can say no and move on, right? There's not really much that I can do here. So as soon as I can tell, I mean, you don't even have to try going the other way, g of f of x. Why bother? If one way doesn't work, then it's a no. Okay, hope this helps.